Thank you very much for attending. Join us here. I do have 5 minutes. A couple different things in terms of logistics. You go through this door, you hit the end, you turn left. There's the restrooms. There's a men's room. We should have had 3 men's rooms, but we only have one there. The other thing, at about 6:30 this evening, this room's going to be set up. We're going to have a reception in your registration package. You got 2 tickets for drinks. I ask you to drink responsibly. There's a taxi service. If you need a taxi service, find some of the reception. You see a few Apptis people walking around. Don't want to get anybody too inebriated here. So I just wanted to do that as a note. Those are some of the housekeeping things that I wanted to hit. If you need some more seats, there's some seats on this side for those of you that are standing up. And again, thanks for attending. Real quick, in terms of walking through, if you go back, you rewind to about 97, 98, through about 2001. If you recall, everything was E. Companies were going public. The hype was around it. You know, the commercials, everything was E. And everybody was jumping on that bandwagon. There was a lot of hype. However, as you fast forward to 2008, what you do see is the benefits of that hype. And you see it inside the government. It wasn't just hype. There was actually some meat to that. There's results of that. Things like the way the DMV now handles its constituents in terms of getting driver's license, much easier to do, your registration. Department of State, renewing your passports online, those are e-applications. So what I want to do as a parallel is, it's where, we could say that's where cloud computing, Dave alluded to, everybody knows everything about it. No, it's evolving. It's in somewhat of an early stage. And I did a presentation about a month ago. Is this a rehash of the ASP, of the hosting, of time sharing? Maybe it is with some caveats, because your comms are certainly there, your virtualization is certainly there, and being able to enable this technology that is now coming to bear. And people, like to say that Amazon started. I know there's some Amazon folks signed up. If you look at it, I'll tell you there's probably 10 integrators in IBM and et cetera that claim that they started in the 60s. So I think it's very good. It's coming back to, I think, where everybody thought it should have been before, per se. And I think what we'll see is an evolution where, with the budget constraints coming in play, the technology starting to evolve, you'll start to see greater adoption. I know I had 5 minutes. Let me walk through. So I want to do the E comparison to where we are today. So what do you see? In the first 4 comments up here, security, control, performance. There's a recent white paper done by Information Magazine. A gentleman locally actually put it together. It was a survey out of Information Week. And these were the top 4 concerns that you see as obstacles and concerns related to cloud computing. Security is always number 1. Control, where's my data? Where's my application being housed? Am I concerned with the performance, stability, scalability? And how do I get support? But in reality, Apptis has been looking at this space for several months, and we're actually seeing things that I think all of those 4 can be addressed. There's companies in here that can address those technologies, those concerns, with products that they have, services they have. But in reality, I think there's more to it. When you look at specifically at the federal government, I think there's concerns that, culturally, this is not the way that the government has procured services. Okay, so there's some adaptation that needs to go around the culture. Ownership is one of those cultural things. I want to be able to touch that server. I want it in my own plant. I want it in my own facility. I want my own enterprise licenses. Okay, so that's another dynamic. And the other one that I think is interesting is, let's just say I'm a CIO. In the last 5 years, I just spent $100 million upgrading my infrastructure, the servers, the comms, the desktops, and then you go to the boss and say, "Just kidding." I didn't mean to spend that $100 million. Let's go and use, a commercial cloud, a private cloud, a secure cloud, and take it from there. The CIO treasures their jobs, and I can't see them, taking that forward right now. But over time, I think you will see it, and we're actually starting to see it. There's something else that I was sharing. I didn't put it up here. This weekend, I had a good friend of mine who's been inside a DOT for about 30 years. And I talked to him about cloud computing, is aware of it. And he said one of the other things, though, that could be a dynamic that's not allowing it to happen, and it's something interesting. It has to do with the way that CIOs are graded. So what are they looked at? They look at your budget. You look at what's the FTEs, what's the number of full-time equivalents sitting inside the CIO shop. What is the What's the infrastructure look like? Okay, so there's a whole human resource aspect of the way that a CIO is categorized. It says, oh, because of this size budget, this size infrastructure, this size number of desktops, you're going to be at a higher grade level. When in fact, if you look at it, this comment, this isn't a Tim May comment, it came from me. He goes, we ought to be looking at efficiencies. We ought to be looking at effectiveness and ROI. It's a very tough dynamic. And I'll also tell you the government doesn't have that cornered. Corporations have that cornered also. Okay, I got 1 more minute. So, share with you just a little bit the Apptis approach. It is somewhat of a consulting model. However, we recently signed a partnership with ServerVault, who Seth Finkel will be speaking later on, to start to roll out what our concept of federal cloud. Now, we were heading north with an idea. What's occurring is we're taking a little bit, northwest, coming back to northeast because of market dynamics. So what we're really seeing is you need to educate, collaborate, and that's why we're here today. You got to look at the appropriate situation. It's not a panacea. It's not a one-stop shop. It's not a one solution that's going to solve everything. So you got to look selectively at the opportunities or pursuits. You got to manage that expectations with a client. Okay, there's skepticism, so you got to manage that expectations, and then get targeted successes and move on. We were fortunate within the last 3 months of signing a contract within a civilian agency where we actually are starting to work with our client to migrate them to a cloud platform. So it is occurring. I know that if DISA is here, they're certainly promoting it. You pick it up in the Military Information Technology magazine, and so it is occurring in the federal space.